Hello and welcome to Galactic Goddess TV. I'm your host, Radanelia, and today we have a very special guest, Michelle Lopez. Michelle is a contributing author in the inspiring books Awakening Starseeds Volume 1, Pillars of Light Stories of Goddess Activations, and Animal Magic. In addition to her powerful writing, Michelle teaches mindfulness to children, focusing on social and emotional learning through the wisdom of animal mentors and yoga. She's passionate about guiding kids and connecting with nature and embracing the animal kingdom, helping them develop essential skills through fun and meaningful practices. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So wonderful to be here with you. And today we're going to be diving into ancestral wisdom. So, yeah, would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Ancestral wisdom. Well, in the past few months, I've been on a journey. A few months ago, kind of going into last year, I started working more with the medicine wheel because I see the medicine wheel as being a very organic tool to work with. I can see the resonance of the medicine wheel and how that we embody the medicine wheel within our own physical bodies. And so on this journey, the ancestors are so much a part of the medicine wheel. And last year at the end of the school year, because I'm a teacher, I started to experience some burnout stress. And I know a lot of it was related to some grief and some things that I needed to work on within myself.
Mm.
And so this past, summer, I really spent a lot of time deepening all my practices. And I learned so much about connecting deeper with the ancestors. It's really a necessary part of our journey, and it's one that is so overlooked in our spirituality. To maintain health and balance, it's absolutely integral to the journey. So,
Wow. And that learning about the ancestors. So you've actually went in and learned techniques. And do we want to speak on any aspects that other people could relate to about having to kind of work through lineage karma, lineage trauma, and how that gets passed down from generation to generation? And
yeah.
then there's usually one person that it kind of lands on in the sense of as almost like an assignment to break a certain amount of these patternings and these contracts, if you will. And do you want to speak on what that means, a contractual work that
Yeah,
we're
very well put. You're very eloquent in your words, Rada, and you really do state it all so clearly. So, yeah, I know that's a lot to address, but yes, and healing the ancestral lineage has very much been a huge part of my journey. And it wasn't one that I was aware of, growing up. But when I started my spiritual path, I started to understand and realize that one of my biggest missions here is to heal my ancestral line. And boy, that seems like a big task for one person.
yeah.
Because when we heal ourselves, we're getting a healing for future generations, 7 forward and 7 backwards. And so these are generational teachings, and it does often fall to one person to break that cycle. And I think that it is something that we have signed up for without realizing how challenging that would be once these incarnated humans here. Boy, it sure is challenging. So, but we know we can do it. Like, here's another teaching that I've learned, before I get into the other ancestral part. There are parts of ourselves, and I think I wrote about this a little bit in the Awakening Starseeds. I think it was the second book of Awakening Starseeds, where I talk, or was it that maybe it was Goddess Activation? I think it was that I talk about how there's a part of myself in the future that has already accomplished the task.
Yes,
And
yes.
so what I'm seeing this as is the more we do the inner work, we're meeting up with those lost parts of ourselves and uniting, so we can create a different reality.
Mhm.
Um, but with the ancestors, it's so important that we create communal balance within our experience. So if we're experiencing lots of heavy karmas or become like sort of imbalanced, that's a lot of the negative ancestors trying to enforce karma onto us. Um, and they're like the enforcers of karma. So what we want is the positive ancestors, to connect with positive ancestors. Sorry, there's a helicopter coming over. Loud. We want to create balance. So by making offerings to the positive ancestors, to what we're going to call unity ancestors, what we call sacred communal balance, we bring it all back to, well, hopefully we can bring it back to the center, right? The 0 point. And what I've really learned about this too, if we can even tap into like Jungian teachings, where we paradoxically have two sides to us. One is the shadow and the other one is, you know, the lighter part of self. And rather than sort of disown the shadow, which it only makes it stronger, we're coming to this integration process of which the meeting point in the middle is the 0 point. So it's an integration process. And it's also an alchemical process where these offerings that we give to ancestors are alchemical in nature, meaning that we are setting in positive intention, a unified intention, non-hierarchical intention to create a synergy and a connection with them, because there's ancestors in spirit who absolutely want to see us succeed on the journey. And our success is their success.
Yeah.
Everything is connected. It's like a circle of life. That's what the circle of life means, is the interconnectedness of everything. That's why I love the animals so much, to come in and teach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I would love for you to share more for those that don't know, like the negative ancestors, because a lot of times you hear people just talking about, oh, to the ancestors, as if they're all fine, as if they're all good. But we know that ancestors come in all shapes and sizes and all kinds of you know, positive, negative polarities. So
yeah, I don't mean to oversimplify the concept, but to my understanding, the negative ones would be like to me, they're like the enforcers of karma. And at the end of the day, when you look at the big picture, when you look from the higher self, everything is working in your favor. Okay. So even though those negative ancestors are there and trying to impress karma or negative belief systems, because that's a lot what they do, is they try to make you erode the trust spirit, which would keep you limited to a human existence, a limited being. And so when we start to acknowledge those inner programs, because they really do show up as the programming that's telling you that you can't succeed on the journey, or they're holding you back from moving forward, you have to override those programs within the self so that you can access the greater reality that is there for you, the divine inheritance that we all are here to receive, the way it was meant to be.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
So question for those curious, why would your ancestors want to throw down some heavy negative karma on your path? What's their gain? What's their incentive on doing that?
Well, and I'm only telling you to my understanding, and I hate to oversimplify things, but to me it's that it's about a power struggle within the universe. And this Earth school is such a powerful little place of resolving karmas that have a ripple effect throughout the universe. So if they can keep people locked into a karmic reality here, then there's control of other aspects of the multidimensionality of the universe.
Absolutely.
It has a ripple effect.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've watched so many near-death experiencers, and everybody's like in this like bliss state of unconditional love and stuff. And so you wonder, like, well, what happened to those negative ancestors? They didn't get to, did they just land somewhere else? Or, like, why are they so controlling still to this day? Like, why can't they allow their lineage to move forward in peace? Why do they have to create so much pain and tragedy? You know, what's that about? Like, so, you know, you hear about the near-death experiencers and they're like, I went to a place of unconditional love. I released all my traumas and pain and saw things from a bigger perspective. So they're not going to that place, obviously, you know, like they must go
Yeah.
to a different place.
Well, I think that it's only limited. I really do think it's only limited to this reality.
Mhm.
And then we know that there now I'm probably getting way out there, but that this might challenge people's belief systems, but we are in a galactic struggle,
Mhm.
and it's healing war energy. So we're on this planet, it's the war energy that has been the problem, and we are here to make peace.
Mhm.
Okay, so those of us who are here to make peace, there are just beings that don't want that peace. They want to keep the war going. And
Yeah.
so, yes, when we leave this earth, I do believe that we come into a more enlightened state of being. I believe that we have, you know, homes in other worlds that we can return to, and we can, but that doesn't mean there isn't. I think it's hard for our human minds to understand the struggle, or that there would be anything like that beyond this
Yeah.
reality. And I think that we're always safe and protected,
Mhm.
but this is the place where we chose to do the journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
to receive the contrast of not knowing, or it's a place of ignorance, quite frankly, you
Yeah.
know, being in ignorance so that we can remember. I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah.
that's the whole point, and that's the part where we become more unified with our God source.
Mm-hmm.
Come here, we have a human experience that's limited, we become ignorant of all other realities, and then we remember, and then
Great.
that beautiful remembering is where we can return to our source.
Mm-hmm.
So that is there for us. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I think what you're speaking to is sort of like the concept of love and light, and that everything's perfect and there's no struggle or contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And there are contrasting realities, and
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
it's all there for learning, you know?
Yeah, I think there's so many more realms than we can see with our eyes. We're like tiny babies just trying to remember again. But it's not our fault that we fell into that we agreed to amnesia coming here, because that is part of the whole gig. Is you gotta
Yeah.
just get a clean slate, wipe of everything. And that's why we have these past life memories sometimes, or like this longing for soul family or star family. You know, like you ever look at the stars and you're like, I want to go home, or I want my family, you know. And it's that feeling, it's a knowing without knowing. You just know something, that there's more than meets the
Yeah.
eye. So that kind of eternal, I guess it's that eternal kind of longing for more understanding, more connection. That's actually what leads us back, I think, into our awakening. And so, you know, I really love the work that you've been doing to help overcome the negative ancestral programming. And I'd like to speak on how have you come forward to help relieve some of that tension, because there seems to be like this tension of what the stuff they created in their life, and that drops down for us to process through.
Yes, there is definitely that tension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I mean, we all came, ideally, we would all be untethered, right? Just completely free, like a
Yeah.
horse, you know, herds of horses running free. That's my beautiful vision for humanity, is that we're these untethered beings, and we're getting there. I know we will. I know we already are there. Some other moment in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, it's been really so many practices. So it's deepening my own practice, and not just going like saying, well, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to go do that yoga practice, or I'm going to go meditate for a while, but actually really doing it. Like, it's been a process of prayer, revoking soul contracts. And I've really been connecting with the sun energy, and allowing that sun, like sun meditation, allowing the sun to really fill up my system, fill up my body. Let's see what else. I've done like different therapies for the body too, like, float tank therapy, and which is a great rebalancing. It's been super powerful. Getting a massage, creating like sanctuary, right? A place where you can recharge and renew. In indigenous teachings, they call it the Moon Lodge, where it's the spirit of the North, where you go into a time of, reflecting inward and going and healing. And I look at it as like you're trading in, you're neutralizing the charge. And so I noticed back many months ago that I had a lot of charge within my life.
Yeah.
And polarization, and it caused the burnout stress that I was experiencing. So the task or the medicine is to neutralize that. And so these are all neutralizing practices where when I came back into that internal space of being and feeling neutralized in my energy, I felt a sense of just relief.
Yes.
And so doing these things, creating a sanctuary, going into that moon lodge, which ultimately would be like a woman's moon cycle. The moon lodge is the place where the women go to menstruate and reflect and detox and and get wisdom teachings. But men do this too. So it's not just for women, it's for men too. And so we all need to do that, and acknowledge that it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
To step off this race we're on, to get off of the social media, to really just come into this space of presence, because that's when spirit can really connect and interact with us. And I didn't realize how powerful that, because I have such a busy life with my teaching and my job, and I didn't realize how much I needed that.
Yeah.
And so it's just a process of prayer, self-love practice, self-healing, connecting. For me, it was connecting with water energy,
that
feminine
transmutes
energy.
a lot. The water energy transmutes so much. I notice when there's like a big charge coming up and I know that I'm being asked to alchemize something, I'll go to the hot springs and literally transmute in the hot springs, and I feel like a brand new person when I come out, because the water, we're a transmuter for us. So and then also I wanted to be sure to talk about like giving offerings to our ancestors and how that helps alleviate that tension, that stress, kind of like the heaviness that we carry from our ancestors, just simply because of their lives, their choices, and their struggles and their non-completions in their life, where they didn't get to complete what they had to do to clear up their karma. They may have not completed it, and then we are ending up to be the ones to complete these cycles for them on their behalf.
Yes, like a lot of the decisions or agreements were created in unknowingness or ignorance or desperation. And so we can forgive them. I think the process of forgiveness is so important. But the offerings for me have been like creating ancestral soup. I mean, if you want to get really specific and like and as you're doing that, you're putting your prayers into this alchemical process, all the love, an expression of love to them, an expression of all your good intentions. And then it's whatever you want to put into this soup is what you put into it, but your prayers are very much part of it. And then another practice is making home brews. And all of these things are not for consumption, but they're for, offering. And so you're making home brews, which has been a real learning experience for me to learn how to brew beer. And
that's so cool
and fun. And the whole time I'm brewing, I'm going, oh, this smells so good, I just want to drink it. But it's not for drinking, it's for offering. And so these are just been really powerful practices And just little everyday things, those things you put on your altar, whatever you have, a sacred space in your house
Mhm.
where you're putting out an offering.
Mhm.
It's a veneration in that respect. And I didn't realize how powerful that process is. And what I realize now is when you're engaging the body and the senses in this prayer process, it has so much more power to
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And it helps balance your nervous system, your
Mhm.
parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. The smells, the process of, like, cutting up the vegetables,
Mhm.
um, and just being in that, and then the what it does to your home too, how it's
Mhm.
infusing your home with the smells and everything, and all that's so important. Anything time we can engage the body and the senses in these prayer processes, it's very powerful. So these have been some really good lessons for
Yeah.
me. Teachings from indigenous cultures and medicine will, which has been through, it was just like in every culture
Mhm.
that exists, there's shamanic teachings and medicine wheel teachings. It's universal. And you know I started to gain an understanding that the elements are within our body.
Mhm.
This is what I've studied in Ayurveda, because I've been studying Ayurveda for years. I'm not an expert or anything like that, but I'm a practitioner for myself. And these elements work in our bodies. And so connecting the directions, we have a directional compass within, and we have above and below the 7 directions, and the I am presence within, which is the soul. Um, I started to understand how this is all part of this process. So nothing is separate, but everything is connected. And that's the circle of life. That's life affirming.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't until I experienced the life affirming qualities of all of what I'm discussing here that I realized how powerful it is.
Mhm.
It's like experience is your best teacher,
Yeah, it really
and
is. People
it is.
oftentimes they feel shame because they had experiences. But the truth is you can't feel ashamed for your experiences, that they are part of your growth. It's almost like an initiation,
Yeah.
positive or negative. And the way that it's been in this world, it seems to me that many of the negative experiences were indeed initiations to deeper understandings about ourself and the world, and also pushing us back into ourselves so that we can have more expansion within, and so I
Yes.
think the whole thing where people try to shame you for your experiences, nobody can do that to you. You
No.
cannot shame another for their
So
experience. Yeah.
I must speak to this. I'm
Mhm.
so glad you said that. You're so eloquent in the way you state things. That whole thing was so well stated. So another understanding here is learning that we are all the same in many regards. Like, there's no hierarchical order, and
Mhm.
we need to remove ourselves for these practices to really work. We have to remove ourselves from hierarchical order, and there's no hierarchy. Nobody is above anyone else. No one is below anyone else. There's a humility that I've learned in the past many months, is to be humble to these experiences. And it's that unity or the co-creation with source that we really want to tap into,
Mhm.
and bring unconditional love into everything we do, and that we are here in service to others. And so we can eliminate all the competitive stuff
Yeah.
and judgment, because no one can judge anybody else's journey.
No.
No one can judge, because we are all here learning. We are
Mhm.
all here learning, growing. And the only difference between people is just that some people have just become more aware, or they signed up for this life. They've become aware of their soul contracts, and maybe other people have soul contracts. Maybe some people are taking a rest in this life. This goes back to Dolores Cannon teachings,
Yeah.
where she always says, like,
Sounds good. The rest one sounds pretty.
yeah, like, don't judge people, because
Yeah, yeah.
nobody is more enlightened than anyone else. Technically, we're all humans, and we're all here to be in service to each other. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And not the only difference is not everybody's ready,
Mhm.
and not all parts of self are ready.
Mhm.
And so that's the deep acknowledgement of getting out of denial.
Mhm.
So is another part for me was I kind of went through this stage of like, oh my gosh, I have been in denial.
Mhm.
And I'm being very vulnerable here and sharing this with you and everything today. But I think it's important for people to know that we have to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we've been in denial about, and it's okay, because that's where you're going to really get a healing, get to the truth, is start, letting down the illusions of um, the way we thought things were, or the way we think things should be, or where we projected onto something positive or negative
Yeah.
that wasn't actually true.
Mhm.
So it's really coming into the deep truth of what you've experienced,
Mhm.
what your traumas are, and then doing the good work of healing so
Yeah,
that we can get this generational healing. So,
absolutely. So beautiful. Thank you for
yeah.
being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. I think this is how we actually do communal healing, is by being really authentic. Like if we just pretend like it's not real and we're all in denial, or we're all suffering. I mean, I'm all about, hey, let's share tips and tricks to get through this stuff, because no one is exempt. We've all been given a pretty heavy load to carry, especially those that are on the fast track. And like you said, some people are on the rest period, so you wonder why their life seems so like they never have any kind of contrast. And
Yeah.
so others have so much contrast. It seems to be the whole way through, it's contrast. And so I also want to tell those that have been through so much contrast, don't beat yourself up, because I think a lot of times those that have been through so much contrast, sometimes it becomes a like a self-harm, like they blame themselves, basically. I mean, it's
Mhm.
internalize it in a way that's negative about them, like something's wrong with me because I've had so many of these experiences, whereas that is not the truth. The bigger truth is that you're probably a badass and you came here to work through all this stuff faster than the speed of light, and you're a quick learner. You move through things. Yeah, you fall, but you get up again and again, and you learn and you grow, and you're actually reclaiming, like you said earlier, Michelle, the parts of yourself that were
Mhm.
lost, forgotten. So it's a retrieval process, and it doesn't come without challenge. We have to go through the
Yeah.
obstacle courses to get everything back.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Um, it's quite a challenging journey. And I think that you know, we choose different experiences and we choose to take on what we're ready to take on. So there is a hidden blessing or treasure in doing this work of the shadow, or going through this whole death and rebirth process cyclically over and over again. And sometimes it looks like, oh my gosh, why is this happening again?
Mm.
Some of it could be repetitive, but there might be in a lesson that we're still trying to understand. But it's also because your soul wanted to have an experience to really move past some big things. Some people might be putting it off for another lifetime. It just everybody's going to get there. Everybody's going to be on this journey. It's just whatever you choose in this life. You know, we're coming in a different package every lifetime. So it's what the lineage is working with.
Yeah.
That's what the
Mm-hmm.
lineage is working with. And then there'll be that one person who comes in to heal a lineage. And it'll look like total destruction sometimes. It
It
will.
And everyone around will probably be like, oh, look at them. Like in some ways, the family that you're repairing, doing reparation for, they're not always going to appreciate or even see you. To
Yeah.
them, it just looks like a problem person, or they place their judgments, because it's almost like they have a wall or veil they can't see. They cannot see. And so we have to forgive the
Yeah.
fact that people that we love can't see us often, and that we are still doing the work nonetheless. But it's not a job that's like I wouldn't call it, like instant gratification. Like you're not gonna feel the acknowledgement possibly from those closest to you. You're just doing the work. You're doing the work, and it shows up. You'll start to see those breakthroughs throughout your family, but it will come spontaneously. Somebody
Yeah.
else will have a breakthrough, and that, like you said earlier, that would have never happened before, because you've been diligent to your path.
Yes. And that's I forgot what I was going to say now, but you made so many great points. There's just some parts of, I know. When you're on this path, not everything is going to come with you for moving forward. And so part of the shamanic process is learning to let go of those things that don't move forward on the journey. And that is learning to walk the path alone sometimes, which can be very painful, but it's very much like the lone wolf who has to break away from the pack. They do this instinctually so they can find their own way and their own pack, or start a new pack, or find other wolves where they can be a leader. I think it's often the alpha that does this in the pack. And that's kind of how humans are. When we do have to break away sometimes from the other people in our life. And it doesn't mean a complete departure. It just means that we're going to forge our own path. And we don't give up on our pack either. That's the other thing. The wolf doesn't give up on the pack. The wolf will continually look for soul family, and that's what we're doing. So just because you have a departure from one person or group of people doesn't mean there's not another one over here. But we got to go through the process of the life learning and journey. So there is something waiting over here often that we haven't seen yet. And so that's all part of the, letting things go, the death and rebirth process. And that's another learning I've really been diving into lately, is understanding that. And so the wolf has been a tremendous teacher for me. There's so many animal teachers.
I've been feeling the wolf energy so much lately. Like, I almost wanted to get one, but I'm never going to buy a dog. I'll only rescue. So, but I felt like I wanted that. I guess I was feeling that wolf energy and that longing to connect with that, medicine.
Yeah, it's a real like instinctual energy, and it reminds me of Aries energy a lot. And it's just amazing how they can communicate with each other, and that they're just very loyal to the pack. It's really interesting. So yeah, I love that animal teacher so much. They're guardians. They have guardianship energy. So it's been a really incredible learning process this past many months, since last year. And it's so funny because I go on these journeys, and it's like I never intended it to kind of go the way it goes. We've talked about those cosmic surprises, and they really are.
It so much unfolds. I mean, I think that we're pleasantly surprised too, because there are so many gifts when we say yes and step forward into the invitation, because there is that invitation, and we can say no and close the door and go the other way. But when we have the courage to go in and face it, wow, you'll be surprised. You get so much out of it too.
Yes, this is stepping up into eldership, another indigenous teaching. All it goes with what I've been learning, and it's taking the responsibility and the eldership, and it's not everybody is a leader in their community, but you are a leader for yourself. And so every person that heals themselves is having the ripple effect of healing outward. And so, some of us are more out there on the journey, and some of us are more inward with this energy, but it doesn't matter, because the ripple effect is healing the collective unconscious of humanity. We're all contributing at all times. So I think a lot of times people think that everything has to be so externalized, or that we see certain success on social media, and then we kind of start thinking, well, maybe I'm not doing enough. I know I've gone through that, just because I'm a healer, but I also have my work in the schools, and I've had to really wear a lot of hats. And I'm just understanding that, just heal yourself, just do what needs to be done, and the rest will come into place. You'll be placed just where you need to be.
I so agree with you. And I think the work you're doing is amazing. You're like a very conscious teacher, and the schools need that, the children need that, and you're serving in such a big way. And we don't we don't always recognize that our service that's behind the scenes, there's, you know, it's not glamorous, but we're doing the work. We're really being of service. And so you're doing it.
Yeah.
And those, you're affecting the children's lives in a positive way.
Yeah.
And, you know, they will go back and remember the love and the gifts you infused into them. And later that will be part of their offering that they get to experience, you know? So those are precious gifts that you're giving. But yeah, like it's not, you know, we can't always do social media splashes. Like we're just doing the work sometimes, and it's not something people are like, well, what's going on with them? Or "Oh, they fell off." And I always think when people just use social media to gauge where you are, they have no idea where you are, that you're doing so much and it's just behind the scenes. People can't always see it because we don't always splash it out. It's sometimes the most important work, especially like the lineage work, you know, it's very personal. We're not always going to be splashing that out. It is something that is really sacred. And so
Yeah.
it's okay that we don't always put everything on the
Yeah.
front. You know, we're having this conversation because I wanted other people to kind of get informed so they could think about their own lineage and their own offerings and how and you bringing that forward to people. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yes, yes. There is so much about keeping, there's things we have to keep sacred on the journey, and we have to give ourselves that internal rest of the northern spirit, the spirit of the north, and that part of the medicine wheel, that connecting in the north, we connect with the communal fire, with the grandmothers and grandfathers, the teacher spirits, the ones that are going to give us that wisdom. So there's a lot of wisdom in that direction. And it's time, and it's the winter. So it doesn't matter what season is actually occurring in reality, in a sense, because we can go through these periods throughout any moment in time. We have our own internal seasons, and then we can work with the seasons that we see in reality. And it's really amazing and powerful. I so grateful. I just naturally came to this whole medicine wheel process. I always joke I traded in the astrological wheel for the medicine wheel. But I haven't given up on, astrological things. It's just that, you know, this is so much more personal because it's literally my body. My body is a living medicine wheel.
Mhm.
That's how I see it.
Yeah,
So it's
beautiful.
that presence, that communal presence and internal presence, and coming to that center point, which is the marriage between, I think it's the marriage between mother and father God,
Mhm.
um, heaven and earth, that
Yeah,
bridging.
integration,
So
merging. It's a lot of integration, right?
yeah, so much.
And that integration takes it requires rest, you guys. Like you can't just do sacred work and then just keep going and going. Like you do need time to pull back and to rest and to internalize. You have to actually integrate through the internalization. And so that's why people that are really doing this work, they're not always going to be extroverts, you know, and showing off online. They're going to be sometimes in their cocoon integrating these powerful things because it's in our body, you know, it's in our
Mhm.
body.
Yes, yes. Engaging the body, healing the traumas of the body, all the things.
There's so much, but
Yeah.
I'm really,
So
oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm so grateful you could come on today and just give people some ideas about about healing their own family lineage, and that the possibilities are there, and that it's an explorational process, that it's something you can do and that you see the benefits of it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah, so just tapping into, like, if I could give anybody some advice moving forward, it's focus on that self-love and self-care. It is so important that we nurture that part of ourselves, because if you don't do it, who's going to do
yeah,
it?
exactly.
Right?
You
And
can't.
so that everything we've talked about today is creating true generational wealth, we kind of look at wealth as being an external thing, but the generational wealth is the alchemy of the soul and turning that lead to gold. And experience is wealth. I truly believe that that's the currency. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the gold. When we clean up our lineage, we're actually clearing out that whole generational stuff for our past and present and future, and we're giving a gift that is beyond gold, because when people can move through this world lighter and easier without carrying those burdens, everyone benefits. So it is so worth it. And I think that every time I see my nephew, we see our younger ones, and and I'm grateful that I'm doing the work, because even though it's been hard, and like we know that we're paying it forward for the future generation. So I honor you, Michelle, for all that you've been doing for yourself, for your lineage, and for the world, and for the children. You're offering so much contribution and service, and I'm really grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming on today and chatting with us.
yeah, and Rod, I want to tell you, I am very grateful for you too. And I just want to acknowledge you and all the good work that you've been doing all these years. And it's just, you have so much goodness and gifts to offer the world. And I do see you. So thank you, friend. Thank you.
Friend, thank you so much. Bye for now.